has a funny way of working out sometimes. 1 minute, everything in your world seems to be on one accord, going great, can't be better. And then in the next minute, it can all come crashing down around you, all your hopes, all your dreams, like castaway bricks of a crumbling building. I know you're saying, Butta, what could have happened since the last time we heard from you? Well, pull up a seat. I've got a little story to tell. First, let me say that after we got back to the loft from our honeymoon, everything was perfect. When we first walked in, I was thrilled to discover that Lion had not only gotten the beach house decorated in furniture pieces I had picked out, but while he was gone, he had somebody come in and do the same thing to the loft. Y'all, they painted these plain white walls and everything. First thing that greeted me when I walked in was a warm orange wall with a sign that read, "Congratulations." As I walked through, I looked at my new home and my heart felt full. Yah had truly blessed me, a sinner. Then there was the day of my immersion. Lion made it sound like he, Elder, and I was just going to take a short trip down to the Lake Michigan for all of you guys that are not from Chicago, and do the immersion real quick and then come back to the gym. However, I got there only to discover that Sophia had put together me a little cookout to celebrate my immersion. Y'all, I really love that girl. Yes, she was 2 years younger than me, and yes, she was a spoiled little princess, but she had a good heart, and as much as her parents did for her, she did for others. The girl went out her way to help somebody. Anyway, she had invited all of Lion's men and their families. Speaking of Lion's men, they have become brothers to me. The more I got to know each of them, the more I discovered that Lion was not the only one with special gifts. They all excelled in their fields to come together to make a deadly squad of team. For example, one day I was watching them train. It was one of the days that Lion closed the gym down for all but his 9 brothers. And my mouth dropped open watching them. Lion's best friend, the one he calls Big Ock, was just as deadly as Lion when it came to hand-to-hand combat. In fact, out of all of them, he was the one that stood in the ring with Lion the longest. But just because the others was not that vicious in hand-to-hand combat, it didn't mean they didn't excel in their own areas. Daniyah was the sharpshooter of the crew. Guns was his thing. They blindfolded him, and the man took his weapon apart and put it back together in under a minute. Then he walked out the front door, and Lion and them set up a dummy that was sitting on the other side of the ring away from the windows. They opened one of the windows, leaving only a bar that crisscrossed, leaving little small triangular spaces. About 15 minutes later, the dummy's head exploded. Lion and his other brothers got so excited they began jumping around, hitting each other on the back. You know how men get when they're impressed at some random act of violence. Anyway, come to find out, Daniyah was in his apartment that was on the next block and had not only hit the dummy square in the head, but had managed to get his bullet through one of those little triangles on the window bars. Lion said there was nobody in the country that can shoot like him. Apparently he was ex-Navy SEAL and had been ordered to assassinate Lion. But he said as he watched Lion through his scope, Yehoshua had come and knocked at his door. And instead of him putting a bullet in Lion, he went to him and asked him to explain what was happening to him. You see, he, like myself, had been feeling like something was calling him prior to meeting Lion. In fact, all his men had similar testimonies. Adam's mind was very analytical. He was the real CSI. They said he could go on any crime scene and he would go completely still. The other officers would all leave the scene. And they said when Adam came out, he would have worked out most everything that had occurred. Lion called him the world's best tracker. The thing was just giving him complete silence so that his mind could put things together. A skill that had caused him to not only rise to the top of the Chicago PD, but one that had the FBI and the CIA scratching at his door. He says he hasn't moved to take up their offer because Yah hadn't led him that way. And then there was Mouse, who was a different kind of tracker of sorts. You see, if Mouse had a keyboard in his hand, there was no place he couldn't go in cyberspace, thus the name Mouse. Lion met him in prison, where he had been locked up because, for a small fee, he was making folks' records disappear. Hardcore gangsters had the records of young school children. He said he was untraceable, but somehow the feds had caught up with him. He said it was Yah, and his mercy had run out. Then there was Naphtali, who compared to the other ox, his other 9 brothers, he was a very slight man. But he was so light on his feet that in a brawl, he moved around the room like a bird. For real. Lion was after him, and I don't think his feet ever touched the floor. He was on the table without moving it, on the arm of a chair without toppling it. I even saw him do a full flip across the bar of the weight bench. I forget his name. I think it's called the barbell. Thanks to Lion, I was learning all the gym terminology. Anyway, his punches and kicks came so fast that he could knock you down and you not even know what happened. Then there was Micaiah, which was one of the ox that barely spoke, but he was deadly with the swords. He fought Adam and had somehow cut him out of his shirt without him knowing it. Lion and the other ox erupted in laughter, but Adam got steaming mad because it was one of his good shirts. And the more he charged, the more his clothes suffered. Micaiah moved like water with those swords. It looked like the man was dancing. Then there was the twins, Tumo and Baya. Daggers were their thing. Lion opened a little box and 20 flies flew out. And y'all, before I could blink, the twins had all 20 of those flies pinned to random things in the gym with those little blue steel daggers they always carried around. Lion even pulled out one of King's hunks of beef that had not been sectioned off yet, and one of those twins sent one of them little daggers straight through it, cutting it in half. Then there was Dino. Making things explode was his thing, and whatever he did, the others gave him space. There was something he did where he threw something from his hands that caused its target to go up in flames quickly, and there was no putting the flames out until it was completely burned. They said that once they had all been trapped in some kind of submarine that was being remote controlled to take them to their death at the bottom of the sea. How in the world they ended up in that kind of situation, you wonder? Yeah, well, I wondered it too, but apparently that was information I didn't need to know. But anyway, Dino took his watch off and did something with the engine, giving them all time to get to the other end of the sub, and when it blew, it took off the whole front end and sent them shooting back up to the surface. And last, but surely not least, was Solomon the attorney. He was another that was not bad with hand-to-hand combat, but his true gift, Lion said, was moving with power through the system. He is real smart and good at using the judicial system against itself. Solomon said that there had been many attempts made on his life, but Yah had put a hedge of protection around him And although the powers that be hated it, he was always one step in front of them. So, yeah, these guys and their family have become my family. Well, all except Solomon. His wife and kids didn't want anything to do with him. Lion said that he used to train Solomon's son, whose name was also Solomon, and that the kid had a special gift and will probably end up more powerful than his father. But everybody else has showed up for my immersion, including the preacher, who truly moved like a ghost. He came and went as he pleased. There was no way to contact him if you needed. The fellas say he just always seemed to know when to come around. Big Ock told me that the preacher could move things around with his head. He said once he asked the preacher how he did it, and the man simply responded, "I just tell them to." Well, it was after that happy day that things started going south. First, I began getting very sick in the mornings. I thought maybe I was coming down with something, but Sophia had taken one look at me and a huge smile spread across her face. "Cody, you're going to be a mommy," she said. We were sitting on my new living room couch. Lion was downstairs. The gym was full because it was one of those days where it was open to all members. "What? No, I can't be." "Why not? I thought you and Lion had passed the abstinence point already." "We have, but it's only been like 2 months. She looked at me as if I was a slow child. "Now, Cody, you older than me. Surely I don't have to tell you that it only takes one time." I stared at her. Come to think of it, I haven't been visited by Unflow since I left the lake house. I touched my stomach. Oh my goodness, I was going to be a mommy. My heart filled with 100 degrees of love, and then uncertain. "When are you going to tell Lion the good news?" Sophia asked, touching my stomach. "I don't know. Not yet. And don't you say anything to him either." She zipped her lips. "It's not my news to tell. Don't worry about me, sister." I hugged her close. She was an awesome friend. I just needed a little time to think about things before I told him. Like, how serious was he about me? Yeah, he had married me, but not on paper. And he was still so very secretive. There were a lot of things that he wasn't telling me. For example, in the basement of this place was a war room. And every day Lion and his men would close themselves off in there for hours. He never allowed me in. And when I asked what they were doing, he would only say, "It ain't my burden to bear." And then there is the times I would either be upstairs or be sent upstairs, only to shortly after hear those drums, and then kings roar, and then lions. He would later come home, sometime with blood on him, sometime not. But one thing that never changed was the splitting headache he would have. I always had a bath waiting for him. I had taken to lighting candles because the ceiling lights was too bright for him. I would rub his temples as he mumbled Yah's prayer in Hebrew. Then I would spend the next day nursing him and King back to their full strength. I wanted to know what was happening to them. What was it that they fought that left them so depleted? But every time I asked, he would only tell me not to worry about it, and that sometimes some things were too ugly for someone as beautiful as me. It was so frustrating not knowing what was up with them. Sophia had told me that they fought demons, but even she didn't know the details because nobody discussed it with her either. The only reason she knew that they fought demons was because she had overheard Lion and the preacher talking about the thing they had fought the day he had been injured. I know that because of what Delilah did to him, It was hard for him to trust me fully. But can I live with that? I trust him completely, and yet there was still a part of him that he was holding back from me, and he probably would never let me in there. Could I live with loving him completely and he only loving me partially? Oh, I really needed my mommy. And I know I sounded childish, but it was times like this that a girl can always go for the arms of her mom. Lovely had been young and pregnant by a man that partially loved her too. She could tell me how she survived when he left and how she got over her fear of being a single mom. For days, y'all, I thought about my mom. Until one day, that little pager that I kept buried in the bottom of my backpack, the one the dollar bill got me, went off. I didn't recognize the number, but my heart started doing flip-flops because something in me told me it was Lovely. I called it back, and y'all, it was a miracle. My mama's voice was on the other end. "Hey, Butta baby," she said. "Mama, is that you?" I could not stop the tears as they began to flow down my face. "Yeah, it's me." She coughed into the phone. She didn't sound so good. "You all right, Lovely?" "No, Butta. I ain't doing too good. Mama need to see you, though." "Psh, where are you?" "I'm on my way." "Nah, baby. It would be better if I came to you." "Okay, sure. When will you be here?" "I'm right outside. All you have to do is open the door for me." Her voice changed, sounding stronger. I frowned at the phone. What the hell was she doing outside?